we're live. Thank you everybody for your patience. We're 10 minutes late, but better late than never. We had some technical difficulties. Love technology, also don't like it at all times. But we are here for our second ever Ask Me Anything. So thank you. I'm going to have you introduce yourself in a second, but if you guys don't recognize her voice, then maybe you need to go back and listen to our podcast because you've already been on our podcast. But can you please tell us who you are and kind of what you bring to our lovely group?
Yes, and thank you so much for having me on this. I'm so excited to be part of this. I've been thinking about it a lot and how I'm going to bring the good energy to this group. So, my name is Kelly Cohee. I am a domestic violence survivor, and yes, I did do a podcast with you. What month was that? I can't even
I
remember what
think it
month.
was December. I mean, it feels like
It
it
was
was just
end of last
yesterday.
year.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
It was,
Mhm.
yeah, I love sharing my story there. So I'll leave that to everybody to go to the group to go listen to that to hear the full story there. But I am a multiple trauma survivor. I understand pain really well, unfortunately. But the fortunate part is I've turned that into being of service to others in a big way. So I am a Reiki master, practitioner, and teacher. This is what I do in my private practice several days a week at a beautiful wellness center. And I also teach Reiki. So I teach all levels for those who are wanting to work to heal themselves. It's a very empowering technique. And I channel. I am a psychic channeler as well. So I bring in fun divine messages for people for the healing purposes. So it's a whole bunch of fun with me.
Well, I love not that I love that you're a survivor, but the fact that you are a survivor and you took that and you turned it into a way to help others is just beautiful. And I think that makes it even extra special. I'm sure there are other Reiki masters out there, but to have that extra connection with this group as a survivor, I think is pretty powerful. So we are lucky to have you here today. So let's just start with the very first question. If you guys remember, we posted this event in the group a little over a week ago, and thankfully you submitted some questions. I've provided those to Kelly. We're going to get her to answer them. If you think of any other questions during this event, post them. And just as a reminder, we will not see your name because we are broadcasting. So we're going to see it as group member asked. So if we don't address you by name, it's not that we don't care. It's that we can't see who's asking the questions, but we will absolutely get these questions answered. Someone just said, thank you for all that you do. And I assume that's to you, Kelly, because you do so much. So the first question that came through is, what is Reiki?
So I was having a little tech in and out, so you can hear me well?
I can hear you great. Yes. The first question is, what is Reiki?
What is Reiki? So, yes. So, Reiki is a Japanese word and healing technique that means divinely guided life force energy. So, as the practitioner, I do lay hands on the client. I work with their chakras to balance the energy centers. The chakras themselves mean energy centers, as well as working in the aura. So, cleansing the aura, the energy body, which has a huge impact on our physicality, how we go through life in a number of ways. And so, Reiki, being divinely guided and being high potency frequency energy, cannot cause harm, is only for healing purposes. And so, as the energy would come through my hands into the energy body of the person, it's going to meet up against anything that is low vibrational. So let's say stuck trauma from the past. So, like a lot of resentment, a lot of anger, a lot of fear, a lot of stress, a lot of sadness. Can get lodged in our chakras, lodged in our energy system, causing us all kinds of issues. And can Reiki be used integratively? I think that's one of the questions coming up, so I'll save that
Yes, it is.
answer.
Okay.
It can be used integratively, but it's a very gentle, holistic healing technique, so it can be used for any number of things. So mental, emotional, physical, or spiritual healing. We're kind of
Okay.
covering all bases.
Well, that kind of leads me into my next question that someone submitted. How can it help someone who has been through abuse or trauma?
So this type of energy tends to unfortunately stay with us even though we may have moved on intellectually. Like we tell ourselves like, yeah, I'm pretty good. Like even maybe
Mhm.
having done um, some cognitive behavioral therapy, talk therapy. I'm not saying that's not good. I'm just saying typically it's pretty hard to release from the body the depth of the trauma that's held in there only with the talk therapy. So I myself have done the talk therapy and have integrated
Okay.
both, but I'll come back to that. So the density of I would say, the shock to the body stays in our system without us being consciously aware of it. And
Okay.
so as I'm working on clients, I can feel where that is, even if they're not consciously aware of it. And so the
Oh,
need to release that is so we can, breathe again,
yeah.
and really have a sense of forward movement and confidence. So our confidence is usually pretty shaken with stuff like that, as well as lack of empowerment. So Reiki can actually help a lot. There's a chakra that deals with empowerment and building back up our self,
Okay.
our sense of self. So we use Reiki to help heal that particular area.
I'm just being told that we're having a little feedback on the video. So when you talk, I'm going to mute myself. And so if I don't respond
Okay.
right away, it's not that I'm not listening. It's just so that the members can not hear that. So I'm going to go ahead and when
Okay.
I ask a question, I will mute, and that way it doesn't interrupt the incredible answer that you're giving. So my
Oh,
next
I
question
hope I got it.
my next question is not one I gave to you, but do you have to believe in chakras and in this? There are a lot of people who may not for it to work. I mean, could I just try it even if I'm uncertain? And let me find my mute button and then you go ahead.
Okay, she's muted. The answer is correct. You do not have to believe in chakras. It's generally how I work, but no, the recipient does not have to believe in such things for the healing itself to take place. I work with clients of all different faiths and all different persuasions, some very spiritual, some very religious, some agnostic, and it works just fine. So
I
really, okay, so really, one more. So really, the only prerequisite would be I'm really ready to heal. I'm ready to do some deep healing work. I've tried other things. I want to give this a shot. So the openness, yeah, the openness is really all that's needed.
That is absolutely perfect. That is what I had hoped to hear. So that way, because not everybody believes in the same thing, but that doesn't mean certain healing doesn't work in addition to their beliefs. So, and yes, you probably noticed I muted you too, just in case the feedback was happening. So if you have something, just give me a nod and I'll unmute you before the question. But the next question is, how long does it take for someone to feel the positive effects of Reiki?
Okay, I'm ready to talk. So generally, I start with deep breathing to help the client to super relax and get into a much more open state. So I will sense and feel generally how long that breathing needs to go on before I would lay hands on and do the actual healing part with the Reiki. So receptivity is generally up to each client. There are some clients that take a bit longer to fully relax, fully let go, and I'm very mindful of that. And I talk them through everything I'm going to do, by the way. So it's very, very guided, the whole thing. And we would do a pre-consult to kind of get to know each other a little better. They trust me a little more going into things. And it's always, fearful in the very first session with anyone. So meaning, I don't know you, what is this? So generally, the first session, I would say, mm, about 20 minutes into the process of the breath work and then the actual laying on of hands, would they start to feel that sense of release and that sense of calm and that sense of, opening. But again, it's very per client, based on how they operate and how their mindset is, for them to really feel the full effect. But generally speaking, at the end of one session, certainly they could feel relief. Absolutely.
I love that because I was expecting you to say 2 or 3 sessions a week.
No.
And the fact that it could be, almost immediately, that's great. And then so a part of that is coming from a different type of abusive situation. I struggle with being touched, and Reiki is a touch therapy. So, for someone like me who struggles with that, and I want to try Reiki, what is the best approach for, again, not a question that's on the script, but I'm asking now, what is the best approach for me, right? If you could answer that to help those who may be struggling with that same concept of touch right now.
Yes, ma'am, and I'm so glad you brought that up. So, Reiki can be done without touching the physical body as well. So, I will work with my clients per their comfortability. But in general, the Reiki is very light touch. So, there's no massage, it's just very light touch over the body, fully clothed, all of that stuff. So you know. But I would fully, what's the word, respect, you're not wanting to be physically touched. So I actually do really, really beautiful, deep healing Reiki meditations where the energy is being guided to you, but I'm not touching physically. So that can be done for a whole session, and it is very deep and very powerful. So it's energy. We have to remember this is energy healing. So there's no, what's the word? No barrier, meaning I can be sitting across the room and I can intend and send you this energy. I am at the level to be able to do so.
So with that, I believe we have talked to you once before about potentially coming in, and this was the first step. Obviously, first step was podcast. Second step was ask me anything, because if they listen to the podcast and still have questions, we really wanted the group to be able to ask you anything. The next step, hopefully, would be for us to host possibly maybe a social hour with 5 to 10 people. Is that something that you could do where you could help guide a small group in energy? Is that something you could do remote, like on this, in a private room with our Facebook group?
Oh, yes, ma'am, I'm all about it. So, yes, I was going to say, oh, yes, I'm all about it. So, I have, during the pandemic, I have done a lot of Zoom meditation circles and sessions like that. So, yes, we have to kind of be, mindful of the tech being slow at certain times, this, that, and the other, but it's still very powerful. So, yes, of course, I would love to do that.
We will get it on the books for the near future. Okay, let me get back to the scripted questions because I just decided to talk for an extra 10 minutes with you. So the next question is, how or why can and should Reiki be a form of healing in tandem or separate from the traditional talk therapy?
So, as I mentioned, I have been through traditional talk therapy at different points in my life and definitely not knocking it. It has its very good understanding and usages, and understanding how our thought processes work is integral to obviously making future changes in our behaviors. So, the energy work is a really beautiful complement to that. So I have many clients that are still doing talk therapy and using the Reiki as an adjunct therapy to continue that. So basically, because Reiki is holistic, and it cannot cause harm in any way, shape, or form, it works well with medicine. So the traditional medicine that they would prescribe. So if you're looking at depression or anxiety, things like that, those kind of medications, are actually well supported by the Reiki. So the Reiki energy will, how do I describe it? Support whatever regimen that you're already on. So I'm seeing that my battery is low. Uh-oh. I wasn't thinking I was going to use my phone. So I might have to walk with you a little bit. Is that okay?
Go ahead and walk. We're
I'm going to
fluid
walk,
here.
I'm going to talk, and we're going to do
Yeah.
this, and it's going to be like this, and y'all get to see my house. So, yes. So it works great in tandem. I highly recommend, of course, to stay with the regimen that you're on, given by your, practitioner, your medical practitioner. Here we go. Hold on, I'm plugging in. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So yeah, I'm like, I don't know if it's going to be a great scene, but we'll see. So yeah, that's better. So what else can I say about that? Let's see. Because it is soothing in nature, it basically, when I work on your head area, it's going to support all the new mental processes and, cognitive behavioral therapy techniques that you're already using, or other mental health style techniques that they're giving you, because it's going to help clear that energy that's stuck around the mind, stuck around the head area, for us over analytical overthinkers. So the Reiki really does help to calm that.
I have lost you there, Kelly. You still there? Standby group members, technical difficulties again.
Oh, am I back?
Yep. Your audio is
Hello?
back. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Kara?
One second, everybody. Let her reboot and we'll come back with her, okay? Perfect. We can't see your video, but that's okay. Hopefully it will rejoin us. Can you hear
Yeah,
me now,
it's just
Kelly?
a little slow. It's coming back.
Okay.
I hear you.
All right. Well, in the meantime, let's move on to another question from the group here. I'm going to put it up on the screen for you to see, and then I'm going to mute, and hopefully your video picks back up. So the question is it possible to guide a child to do this with the parent?
Meaning the parent would want to give Reiki to the child? Am I hearing that right?
Hopefully the Facebook user hears the question and submits a little bit more, but my thought would be helping the parent understand about the Reiki process and help maybe with the energy of their child, because they may not always be able to do that, obviously, without being a Reiki master, what you do. But is there
Or
a way
without
for a parent?
Yes.
That's, I think, more the question. And hopefully they will clarify. But in the meantime, if you could ask with that being the intent of the question, that would be great.
Yes. Okay. So that's another good question. I do work with children. The youngest I've worked with is 5. I think that's probably, yeah, a good age to begin with as far as cognitive ability. But yes, so I have had parents sit in while I work on their child. And typically we would set up maybe an hour maximum session. We'd do a lot of talking back and forth. I would speak to the child with their parent there, and I would speak in a language that the child could understand, And then it's worked very well. So children are very receptive to Reiki. It's a very gentle process, soothing process, like I mentioned. And again, if the child has any touch issues, of course, I would just work around and work in the outer layers of the energy body. But they feel and sense and what's the word? Intuit a lot more readily than we do as adults, because we tend to have a lot of baggage from various things. And so they readily receive the Reiki, and it's not quite as difficult for them to maybe breathe deeply and then let go, and they're not maybe in their head as much. So yeah, kids are great candidates, and I've been itching to do a kids class to teach them Reiki, so they can work on themselves and the dogs or the cats or whatever. It's very like magical to them.
I love that. I think maybe we'll talk about within the group if that's something we can help post. That would be really nice for them to work on. But the Facebook user did reply and say that is what they meant specifically, possibly giving the parent the tools and techniques to not necessarily implement Reiki in their home, but enough to help with the energy in a
Oh,
way
sure.
that we can't. So that would be, I think, a really great tool or something we could do in a social hour, helping
Hmm.
arm our parents with an energy toolkit to help their children in lieu of being able to schedule some time with the master. So, um, okay, so let's go to the next question. I think I only have one more previously submitted question, and hopefully those online, again, feel free to submit anything we've got. We started a little late, so we'll run about another 10 minutes if we need to. But the last question, you may have already described it, but let's do it again. What is a traditional Reiki session like? Maybe for the average person who doesn't have the touch issues, someone who's coming in open-minded, ready to roll, and then maybe we'll go with the more complicated client example. Let's start with the traditional one first.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So generally that begins with a phone consult. I get to know a little bit about the client, what's going on in their life currently, kind of their current energetic makeup. So I am what's called an empath, and I think there are many in the group. I'm just feeling that. So as an empath, we feel and we sense and we take on the emotions and sometimes thought patterns of those around us without being fully conscious of it. So there's a lot of work to be done to empower oneself as an empath. I know I'm going on a tangent here, but there's people that need to hear that. So the Reiki can definitely help with empowering oneself to use that gift appropriately and to not be super overwhelmed by all the extra sensory stimuli. So I attract a lot of empath clients. So I would say my traditional client is usually empathic and carrying a lot of extra stuff, not just from trauma, but from the environment that we live in, and this, that, and the other. So extra stress. Okay, so definitely I would chat with them on the phone a little bit. And then on the first session, typically, I mean, depending if they are open to doing 90 minutes, I do 60 or 90-minute sessions. And so in the very beginning, like 15 minutes or so, sometimes longer, we will chat and I will get an energy read on where they currently are. I also channel spirit guides. That's part of my psychic gifts. And so I'm working with their specific spirit team, I call it, to understand what do they need the best for this particular session. So it's a very custom experience that way. Basically, I'm not guiding anything. It's very much divinely guided. And so, generally speaking, yeah, we'll talk a little bit up front and then I'll have them come on the table. It's a massage table, fully clothed though. So they're laying on top of a blanket or under a blanket, very cozy. And then I will guide them through some deep breathing again for like 5 to 10 minutes, depending on their stress level. And then I will begin to intuitively be guided to lay hands either on the body or outside of the body in the aura. And I just do that until the guides tell me that they are ready. And then I basically bring them back out. It's like a deep, long meditative state. And then I bring them back out and we talk about what did they experience. So what does that mean? It means anything visual, anything that they heard in their mind telepathically, anything that they feel physically in the body. There's many different ways to experience Reiki, and everybody experiences it a little bit differently. But almost always, it's like I feel warm, I feel calm, I feel like at peace. Like that's like the most general experience. And then others have like really cool visions and like their loved ones from the other side pop through, and so it kind of runs the gamut. But we'll talk about at the end what they experienced, what I experienced, because I also am receiving all these things for them, as far as messages go, healing messages. And then we'll kind of talk about a plan going from there, from the first session.
So with that, I've muted you again, Kelly, but if you want to interject, just give me a nod or something. I will unmute you when I'm done. But I love just hearing that it's so tailored for each individual specifically. I'm going to unmute you. And if there's feedback, I'm apologizing, but it's got to be a two-way conversation. Otherwise, it's just silly. But so I love that it's very tailored for individuals and it's not just a one-size-fits-all. That really is a great thing. Now, is it important for you in that initial call or meeting to know anything about the traumas or abuse I've suffered, or is it really just a conversation that kind of leads you to a path with my energy? Because that telling someone new about your experience is a little bit of a challenge. Is that a necessity to start a session with you?
Oftentimes things will come out intuitively.
Kelly, you sound like a robot right now. It's kind of cute, but we can't understand it. So hopefully your phone will catch up.
Okay, hold on.
I think I've almost got you
There's
back.
my kitty.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, go ahead and start again with that, because I'm sure it was a great answer, but I don't have translate into robot English. Okay, go.
No robot. So apparently you guys.
I don't see that in Google Translate.
My cat wanted to be in the picture. She's right behind me. There she is. So I'm so sorry. I was on a roll. What was the question again?
I almost forgot the question. I was so focused on robot language. Do you need to know anything about my history, assuming it's me, but in general, the individual coming in to start a session with you in that initial intake call or anything, do you need to know about their trauma or abuse, or are you just going to kind of read their energy and get a feel for them and their openness before? So maybe I'm not quite ready to talk about it with someone new, but I'm ready to expel the energy. What do you need to know from me going in or from a potential client?
So I'm really glad you asked that. So not much at all, honestly. Like not many people come very directly to me with all of that. That tends to, I'm empathically understanding those things as I'm working in your system typically. And no, they don't need to be discussed. They don't need to be relived. That's not necessary at all. Like in fact, that can re-traumatize. So in the sessions themselves, it's more about what do you feel is holding you back? What would you like more of? Like more peace, more empowerment, more understanding of self, this, that, and the other. So no, I don't need to know those things up front or at all, because really, truly, the guides will help me to understand what do I need to know about that person to help them the most. And oftentimes it's not that much. So because Reiki is divinely guided, it's a very spiritual process, even if the person, like you're saying before, isn't a believer in all this energy mumbo jumbo. They will feel the difference. They will feel the difference. And I think that's what makes people come back if they're not believers like that. It's sort of like me as the practitioner. I'm not guiding anything. This is all divinely guided, the healing. So I help them understand that this is between them and their, perception of healing, perception of a higher power, all of the above. So I kind of try to stay out of the way, in other words. So no, to answer your question, I don't need to know that much at all.
I can appreciate that, because that's one of the hardest things for me, and I'm just using me as an example because no one else is chatting in the group yet. So the hardest things for me is telling someone new my story. I want help, but I don't necessarily want to revisit it. I want to just kind of learn to let go or release the energy. So I genuinely love that answer for that very reason. You mentioned earlier when you do your intake call, you kind of get to know the person before you read their energy, and then once they're in, you have them lay down on a table, fully closed, obviously over or on under a blanket. How will this work when we host our first social hour with 5 to 10 people? Do we need a table? Do we need a bed? How will that set up? And I'm saying this because I'd really like people to watch this one question piece back in preparation for the social hour room if they want to come, so that their nerves are kind of out of the picture. So how would that work for our members if and when we host a social hour Reiki?
So I would absolutely love that, by the way. I'm super excited you're even bringing it up. So generally speaking, no, we don't need a table. You do not need to be laying down. That's for a typical session. That was answering that question. So typical session, hour and a half. I would talk with them seated for a while, have them lay down during the session, go back to seated. But in a group format, everybody stays seated. So no problem there. Generally, I would guide everybody through deep breathing practice. I always do that no matter what I'm doing, whether it's traditional or group or teaching or whatnot. So yeah, come as you are, I would say. They don't need to like already come zened out, because not everybody knows how to get to that level. So no, 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 no. I'm here to help facilitate that whole process. So no, I would say come as you are with all your stuff magnificently.
I love that. And I vaguely remember from the podcast, it was a little while ago, that a part of kind of centering yourself and really grounding yourself is being in touch with nature. And I remember you talking about having your shoes off and standing in the dirt. And then, is there something for us to do if we're not quite to the point where we're ready to sign up and start a Reiki session, or maybe we're not quite brave enough to start the social hour, even though I know everybody is? What can we do? Just some basic, simple things to harness some positive energy to guide us to that next step at home, connecting with nature. What are some great tips for that?
Excellent. Glad you brought that up. So yes, so there's certain things that I do on a daily basis. Certainly the breath work is one. There is grounding, like you said, earthing and grounding. So generally that would be walking and or sitting, meditating barefoot. So you want your feet flat on the earth. So you want to be over sand or grass or dirt, like anything that isn't concrete or man-made, because you want your soles of your feet to connect with the energy of Mother Earth, the energy that is very stabilizing, for lack of a better word. It is scientifically proven that this works. If anyone wants to Google earthing, you'll learn a lot more about it. So there is scientific backing for it, but it feels really nice too. So just so seated on the floor, on the grass, on the sand, on the dirt. So anywhere in nature, like you're mentioning, you can be in a space where you're not confined, confined by your home environment, confined by your work environment. I feel like it's a lot more freeing kind of setting to do meditation or to begin basic breathing and meditation. So I will go to either the beach to do that, the backyard, or like certain hiking trails that have little offshoots to them that you can just sit and be by yourself or something like that. I feel like it's empowering to do these things alone, because you're not truly alone. So at least I believe we have a soul and we can connect to that soul when we're doing inner work. And so it's sort of like basic meditation would be just focusing on the inhale and the exhale. That's it. So nice deep inhalation, I would say for a count of 7, and then hold for a count of 4, and then a nice deep exhale for another count of 7. So that will super, super take your stress level down, your heart rate down, and put you in a more clear-minded place of mind. So you're able to intuit a lot more easily, life decisions, things like that. So daily, like a breathing practice to begin meditation would be really helpful. 5 to 10 minutes. I'd say start slowly because most people are not going to be able to sit that long if their mind is tend to be all over the dang place. And I would also say don't try to be a Zen master right away. Basically, you don't want to try to block out all thoughts. That's just going to drive you absolutely nuts. And so it's more about, okay, I'm just focusing on my inhale. I'm going to inhale as much oxygen and air as I can take in. I'm going to hold it. And then I'm going to release as much stress and baggage that I can through the exhale. Like, that's really it. So whatever thoughts that pop in and out, like, okay, that thought just came in. That's nice. I'm going to go back to my breath. And so we don't need to follow the thoughts, judge the thoughts, critique the thoughts, anything the thoughts that come in, other than observing. So those, the breath work and the just basic mindfulness meditation like that in a nature setting, very powerful.
Thank you for that. I really love that answer because there may be many members of the group who are interested in Reiki, but not quite sure if they're ready to take that step or not in a position to take that step. But the fact that you've given some positive energy tips, the earthing, the grounding, the breath work to me. I remember when my counselor told me you need to practice breathing, and I thought I breathe every day. What are you talking about? I'd be dead. So, but it's the breath work, not breathing, and I had to get that into my head, and I really struggled with it. But once I did, it can get me out of a panic attack in seconds. I still struggle with the thoughts coming in, and just that was nice, and not following the thought. But that practice, it's so important, and I think with our members especially, learning these simple little things, the 5 minutes a day, are just going to really help your energy get in a spot that is more powerful and bring that confidence. And so, Kelly, we're at the end of the questions. I gave everyone a last call to ask you any questions. I think it's just a lot to digest. What I'm going to do is I'm going to recap this. You are a member of the group, so I'm going to recap this and kind of talk some of the points. I'm going to reference your podcast episode. We'll relink your website. And then someone will be in touch with you from Speak Your Truth to hopefully set up a social hour in the next month or two to target some of our members who are interested in doing this in a group setting. But before we go, is there anything else you would like to add to close this out?
Great gratitude to you guys for hosting this. I'm so happy that I met you and Hannah. Like, just you're such an amazing team of ladies, and I don't know if you have been in your group yet, but of ladies so far, and just amazing group work that you guys do. And so I'm thankful that you guys exist, and all the beautiful work that you're doing to help the members and ourselves to heal, right? Because it's all about collective healing. And I do believe we heal very strongly in groups. So that excites me to do the social hour. I feel like, what's the word? When we can be vulnerable and learn to open up and trust in a group setting, that it has a quantum healing effect. For anyone on here who knows a little bit about quantum healing, it's not just about healing ourselves. Like, I believe energetically that we are absolutely connected. Every single one of us, human beings on the planet, have a connection through the spirit level. And anytime we are transcending, overcoming fear, overcoming obstacles, challenges in our lives, choosing the higher road, we're choosing to transcend, is a good word. We in turn allow for other people that have been through similar traumas and circumstances in their life. Energetically, it kind of gives them a boost. So I don't know if everybody understands that. So your healing is very powerful. you're overcoming is very powerful. And you're using your voice to help others, very powerful. That's been a big thing for me. Still working on it, and I'm thankful for the platform. What else? Let's see. Just that everybody on here, I can feel you, even though I can't see you. You're more powerful than you know. More powerful than you know. And I feel like we just have to take that leap. Just have to take that leap. You know, healing is a choice. I feel like we have to choose it every single day. Like there's going to be different opportunities that come your way. You get triggered by this, you get triggered by that. Do we choose to go into old habits and like self-destructive tendencies? I know I've been there. Or do we choose to, okay, I want to face this, I want to breathe through this, I want to move through this, I'm done with this. And then we go higher. And so I feel like everybody here has that capacity. We all do. And we can support each other and lift each other up. So very special. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And just a little note from Hannah right there. Thank you so much, Kelly, with our little heart. So again, we're going to get all this recapped in the group. We'll get your website linked. We'll get a social hour scheduled. And just thank you so much for bringing love and light to us and to the world.
My pleasure. You guys too.